Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Ghost in the Magazine. I'm Elle,
I'm Mel.
And I'm Matt.
and today we are covering House of a Thousand Corpses, which was this Rob Zombie's debut?
Yeah.
I thought
Oh,
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
and
And
a really good example of it too. It basically goes on from there. Many other movies that are a stamp of that one, I think, for Rob Zombie.
well, and he's following the typical tropes too. Stranded, crazy family, murder ensues. I mean, it works every time.
Yeah, I would say that the storytelling aspect of this wasn't its strong point, but the aesthetic and the way that really they got some very interesting characters and like people that could really lean into their oddities. I feel like that just it worked, it carried it.
No joke, dude. Bill Chop Top Mosley playing Otis Driftwood. Come on. I mean, it's priceless.
And that's an interesting character to me because a lot of times like horror movies will lean on like the dark mysterious guy, but instead here's this guy who is like very in your face and very straightforward, and he's got like this white blonde hair that's just straggly as shit just coming out there, just looks like the biggest hillbilly you've ever seen too.
It's a bad wig. It's a bad
It
wig.
is.
Uh, I imagine that is what the devil would look like, though, if he came to do the devil's work. I mean, he's insane looking. I fucking love it.
Yep.
So the devil would be wearing perpetually an unwashed undershirt. Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of unwashed, I'm looking at Sid Haig behind you. How long do you think he's had that clown makeup on for?
Yeah, I mean, there are different parts of the movie where he obviously like it's kind of washed off, not washed off, but just brushed off from daily activity. So I think that's like a permanent installment for him. And when it gets dull, he just puts more on, but like never washes it off, I guess. The makeup was interesting, but also interesting in that like he obviously never takes it off.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think it's his little bow tie is awesome. I love that thing.
It's
He's
just
my favorite character, probably by far. I think the line between good guy and bad guy, adds some fun to it.
mhm.
You know, the idea of the creepy curator of all this, but he also shot somebody. So
Well, yeah. And he had Otis in the back of his car at the end, so
That's
yeah,
I mean, it's so predictable, but so awesome.
the characters are so over the top, and it's just like honestly, the acting is impeccable in this. Like, just the way that they can pull off the insanity. Based on Wikipedia, it says the plot centers on a group of teenagers who are kidnapped. Brain Wilson was never a teenager, first of all. Second of all, none of these people look like teenagers.
And I fucking hate Chris Hardwick. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Great vibes from the beginning.
Do you want to watch a movie where everybody's supposed to be teenagers, but everybody's 35? It's a Band of the Hand from
Hand of the
1986.
hand.
It's problematic because they have a white dude playing a Native American man.
Oh God.
There's so many racial slurs because it's the 80s, but then they also have a, a white man playing a Cuban man who's like a coke dealer and shit. It's just absurd. It's terrible. I'm sorry to get off track, but I just watched that the other day and it's fucking terrible.
So basically, 35-year-old white guys play everybody in the women, the men, the black guys, the creatures. Everybody is a 35-year-old white guy.
Uh, I'll push back on that. Jefferson Keane from The Wire or not The Wire, from Oz is in it. It must be one of his first acting roles. The one black guy.
Wouldn't be a token if there were two.
It wouldn't be an 80s movie either.
Yeah.
But I would pick Baby Up. I'm sorry.
I think maybe that is the point of Baby, is that she's not just pretty, she's very disarming. And she kind of knows how to behave in order to like hook people, because on top of having like kind of an innocent act, she's kind of horny. So,
Yeah, and was it Rainn Wilson's significant other isn't too keen on baby at all.
Which I hate that kind of shit, but I'm also like looking at Sign of the Times, because if it was me and that was my boyfriend, I would wait until we were outside and then I would punch him in the dick and steal his car.
Yeah,
I,
he's not behaving properly.
No.
right, did not reach over and like touch it. Are you feeling all right? What's doing it for you? Like, honestly, I'm learning so much about you today. Like,
Yeah.
so that I would have been like, hey, don't touch my man. I would have been thinking, fine, when we get back to wherever we're going, I'm gonna ghost this guy because
Yeah.
this is weird as shit. That weird little dance was creepy. It was giving murder you later. Like, some black.
Yes.
And somehow part of me is able to overlook it.
Hey, and I'm glad you say that, because anybody who got roped in by baby, I was like, oh, you kind of deserve it because you're a creep. So,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, Matt, maybe.
That's true, because that disarming innocence too, that is like the type of man who can't deal with adult women would be hooked by that shit. So Matt,
Raise my hand.
Right. Can you really be surprised you go on a murder ride after that? Like,
it makes
Matt.
perfect sense.
Yeah.
Did you all see this when it came out, or roughly around the time that it came out?
Yes.
Roughly around, yeah.
It for me holds up just because it's all practical and there's no CG in it. I like that about it.
Yes.
And it's dense. Like, the set is really dense. There's something to see on pretty much every corner of the screen. If you're looking behind them, even the junk in the background has kind of like funny or grotesque stuff going on. So I like that too. Despite the fact that there aren't that many special effects, the set is very special. Like, there's a lot going on. And I agree with you, Elle, about the aesthetics to a T. I mean, it's 80s camp in the early 2000s. So, I thought the execution was great.
Yeah, I can't agree with that more.
Yeah, I grew up in rural Eastern Washington in the 90s. And there was shit like that, like that roadside attraction, just like that was 100%. Hell, there was a place in downtown Seattle called Yield Curiosity Shop that was set up a lot like that. It was just like, it really was a vibe then.
I don't want to forget to just mention how awesome that shot is of Otis when he's got the gun to that cop's head, and we go like full aerial, and it seems like it takes 10 minutes and it's probably like 35 seconds, but that's very nice.
Yeah, that whole scene.
You have a lot of time to think as the character. So it's coming. I mean, like, don't put your gun down, try to run away. I mean, this is not the kind of man to negotiate with. Stop saying help, like those kind of things. So it creates some anxiety that I think is good.
Right before that, when the beautiful way that the father dies and falls into the mud, and it's like choreography almost. Like they did that so well.
I mean, if you watch his Rob Zombie's like, stage setup and his concerts and stuff, I mean, he's so theatrical about everything. I mean, it translates really well when he went and took it to the big screen, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe some of the dialogue choices are a little bit like, leave a little bit to be desired and stuff, but like you said, the atmosphere is there. I mean, I liked this movie, actually, probably just about as much as I did when I originally watched it.
I liked it too. It was solid. I mean, you're not going to be sentimentally moved, by a Rob Zombie film, unless, I don't know, something sentimental happened at a really creepy camp part of your life. But I just feel like knowing that is fun. It's almost like the ride in the convenience store, gas station, chicken shop. You don't know what you're going to get, but it's a shop of horrors. So it's enjoyable.
it did bring back some memories from that time that I got turned into a weird seal monster. But I mean, I was able to get past it.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Well, we don't know. We can't see your legs, so I don't know.
I mean, I've gone full squid mode at this point. So yeah, what they go to that Captain Spaulding's place for fried chicken and gasoline, and they go on that little like tour ride there. Is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was expecting things to pick. I mean, there were so many outs for these people. That's the other thing, is like you can't even feel terrible because like I mean, the murder ride thing, the vibes in that place with Captain Spaulding, as cool of a character as he is, that would have been off. I would have been the fuck out like immediately. I'm not going on the murder ride. It was cool though.
Even like the catch and release that they pull later on when they end up like fixing the tire on their car and they're like gonna let them go, but then they just block them at the gates. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
They really could have gotten away if they had tried to get away in a way that wasn't just, please let me go.
Right.
You know, the guy at the gas station wasn't fucking around. He was, you know, if he hadn't drawn them the map, they probably would have kept driving. And he said a bunch of times, no, you don't want to
go. You don't want to go.
If a guy like that is telling me it's going to be more than I can handle after trying to disgust and scare me in his back room, I'm not going. If it's more than that, like, I'm definitely not going. So I'm with you. Good men, good people. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, we just told you about Dr. Satan.
Yeah, not a guy I want to meet. I don't know.
Hell no.
Maybe Satan, but Dr. Satan? Oh, no.
Yeah, he'd probably be pretentious as fuck, you know?
Man, bad handwriting. Oh.
It's not only the Lord of the Underworld, he's also a doctor.
Fuck.
Yeah.
There were lots of opportunities. Really, like if my car breaks down and I'm like in some weird I'm trying to walk back to Captain Spaulding's place and call like back to like society. But I think the men were following some other directional pull.
Yeah, they weren't thinking properly. Karen Black, man. Gotta love her. Playing Mother Firefly.
Yeah.
You're talking about these characters. And then the Grandpa Hugo.
He looked like a werewolf or something with those mutton chops.
Dr. Satan had mutton chops too that like connect to his hair. It was giving unwashed. Yeah, not good. I noticed that. I was like, oh, they got the father-son hair thing going. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was the big guy's name? Tiny?
Yeah, Tiny. And there's that trope of like a captive appealing to like the most vulnerable member of the family or the group that's holding them. And Tiny does. He lets her go and he's just eating cereal out of a dog bowl.
It's so great. He's like, all right, I'll let you go. It just doesn't care.
But then Otis grabs her, of course, and throws her into that cage with things that grab. I don't know what was happening there. Like I would have liked a little bit more elaboration.
I'll tell you exactly what happens right there. An orgy we didn't get to see because that is the only way to explain why we see her later totally unscathed after all of these people in the cage descend upon her. So they must have descended upon her to like make sweet love or something, because they definitely didn't eat her as implied. Because we see her later intact. I mean, she's running for her life later. So I thought about that too. I was like, wait, that should have been the end of her. You know, threw her in the cage. There was at least 3 of those, whatever, Dr. Satan monsters.
Yeah, is that what they are? They were monsters. They didn't get a shot of it. Yeah.
I was under the impression that they were cannibals. So I was like, oh, she's about to get eaten. But then she didn't get eaten, so I guess they just cuddled for warmth. I don't know.
Didn't they change her clothes after that too? Like maybe they were just wardrobe.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah, hair and makeup came in really quick. Okay, great.
And let's talk about those 4 cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Is that where he has the great line? Did somebody hurt your feelings?
Oh my goodness. The cheerleaders, I don't know. It seemed a little superfluous, except for the one in the trunk. That's
Yeah.
a treat trick.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I
Trunk or
guess
treat?
Yeah.
that even little cheerleaders are not getting out of this situation, and nobody's father is willing to come and look for them. So,
Because
Ooh.
look what happens.
Yeah.
right.
You talk about losing face.
God, Matt.
That's what I bring.
Well, okay, so that is kind of the question that hangs over everything, like why are we doing this? And the thing of it is it seems like sometimes things happen that make it so there's like no way he's using that corpse afterwards for art, the way that they end up dying. But I guess maybe more of them are down in that dungeon with the mini spider doctor guy too. Like, I don't know. That's the other thing. Which one is actually Dr. Satan, the wet toad guy or the spider guy?
I think the spider guy.
Okay. So
Yeah.
who's the wet toad
Yeah.
guy?
That's a good question.
True. Yeah, I don't know, because he's got the symbolic red eyes. I asked myself that too. And then who's Hatchet guy? Like,
Mm.
weird mouth pus out of the mouth guy. They never even mentioned him.
Just some of his many creations.
There's just a lot of guys here to keep track
Just
of.
a lot of fucked up guys here.
Yeah, I almost expected them to do like because they showed us the serial killer spiel in the gas station. Oh, Ed Gein and Manson or whatever. Expected them to say like, "Oh, this is that guy," but they were totally unrecognizable. So I don't know. Steampunk murderers in the back room, I guess.
The other thing is to get to that, that's like in a crypt, because they go through all this shit with the family. Several of them die or get fucked up. And it's just down to Chris Hardwick and the like final girl. And they get put into a coffin and lowered into this wet pit with a bunch of like deadite looking motherfuckers down there that are like pulling them out, eating them, I guess. But we see that Chris Hardwick ends up in Dr. Spider's chair. So
Yeah. And the girl, I think her name is Mary. She ends up escaping through like in a very like Texas Chainsaw 2 like manner. Like,
mhm.
I mean, she doesn't do that cool like stretch dance with the chainsaw afterwards, but at the end they just show her like climbing out of the ground, which I don't know how you found that exit, but it's fine, it works.
But what that hand out of the ground immediately brought me back to was John Carpenter's Vampires, because in John Carpenter's Vampires, they sleep underground when they're not like in a nest, and they'll show the hand coming out from underground. It's also like very like classic zombie movie type of visual, so I think it was an aesthetic choice.
And they did have kind of zombie like creature people whatever things going on down there. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe
It's a
it was
lot.
it got her or not. Is she herself or not? So her name was Mary.
I think so.
No, I think
And
that was actually Denise, now that I read the synopsis,
Okay.
guys. I think Mary's the one that Baby killed.
Okay.
okay, first of all, Mary, she was not playing it smart. I'm not surprised she got the way she did. But
Mm-mm.
Denise, I kept thinking of her as Dana the whole time. I don't know if you guys have seen the L Word, the acclaimed lesbian show of the century, but she was Dana, a lesbian.
Nice.
Yeah.
You also mentioned like all these different creatures, and it just makes me think of Night of the Demons, where like maybe there's like one demon, but there's like definitely zombies, definitely vampires, and I think I saw at least one chud. Is this one of Walton Goggins' first appearances? I mean, he had to have been in some stuff before this, right?
Which one's that?
He's the
Right.
guy that ended up being on like the Righteous Gemstones and shit and Justified. The guy with the big forehead and the real
The
real
cop.
white teeth. The other cop, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't. Let me look at his IMDb.
It's a very familiar
He's a
face.
former child star, is what it says.
I'm glad that it ended with star.
Hence the teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. It checks out. So there's that, they give that little dance in that little comedy show that the grandpa gives, which is highly inappropriate, and like the guys are loving it, the girls are hating it. Baby has a little confrontation with, doesn't that other girl call her like a whore or something?
Yeah. A slut.
I will fucking cut you.
I was like, girl, hush, sit down. He is not worth it.
Not Rainn Wilson. No way.
Not
Fair.
40-year-old Wayne Wilson playing a fucking teenager.
I know. I'm like, you cannot grow enough bang to hide that hairline. We see it. You cannot grow enough pork chop sideburns to hide that hairline. We still see it. So, yeah. I was thinking that. I was like, there is no way he does not already have like 5 kids in this movie or something. I mean, he was looking kind of old. But they all did. I mean, none of them look like teenagers, so.
It's that Hollywood trope. It's just always, you got a 25-year-old playing a fucking 16-year-old. It's absurd. Probably the most famous note of it would be Luke Perry in 90210.
Ugh. It is better than child labor, but like, come on, get a young haircut. I don't know.
Get a young haircut.
Well, put a wig on him. You put one on Otis, like.
True. True. Yeah, they should have. And I don't know, his character was kind of lackluster anyway. I was expecting, I don't know, something funnier, I guess, but that's probably through the lens of the things he did way after this movie. So,
Well, like none of them had any practical like skills or like ability to fight or like put up any kind of resistance. It felt like I can't believe it's all from the dick. I just can't believe that all comes from wanting to bang baby. Like you have to have some survival mechanism in there, guys.
I mean, especially when they're walking in, like, you see all those dolls? Bye.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, I just like to cut their heads and arms and legs off. It's just like, really?
I would try to do the laugh, but it's not going to sound right.
I can't.
I agree. I don't think it's all from Dick. I think, well, technically, maybe it's all from the same source, but I feel like some of it too is just like sexism and superiority. They're like, you know what, no matter how creepy this gets, this is just some girl, like that kind of thing. Like, she's not gonna stab me, please. I'm a curioso. I'm writing a article on dumb shit, like,
Yeah.
I think especially Rainn Wilson's character had a real sense of like journalistic integrity about all this weirdo shit. It's like, you're just a voyeur, like that's it. So I think that was a part of it, that they felt like, well, this is not going to be more than I can handle. I've seen a lot of weird shit. Okay. Excuse me. Like they felt like they had been looking at those places across the country and were curating weird experiences and thusly didn't need to be afraid for their own physical safety, which is idiocy. So.
And I got one question too. Rainn Wilson, his character, I don't recall his name, but did he steal Brody Bruce's jacket from Mallrats?
Perhaps.
Has anybody seen Mallrats?
Yes.
Yeah, that's totally his jacket. Could have used a Dr. Satan in there, killing Ben Affleck.
The thing about what Mel was saying though, with like him just being able to be like, oh, I can handle this, that should have been out the window as soon as they saw Rufus though, because that guy looks like he does pro wrestling like as a side hobby. The continued foolishness, there was no like visual drug use or anything, but they just kind of acted like a couple of chucklefuck stoners, like
Yeah, it's ludicrous. I mean, I guess they're leaning on their interest in the macabre for them to continue down this journey, but I mean, it's a loose thread at best to propel this story.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess you gotta go with it.
Yeah. I think that that's where like I saw the weakness in this was like the plot and the way that some of it unraveled. And again, kind of like the tropes, but some of it was funny, the way that they leaned into it. Um, but they were able to kind of prop everything up on the fact that this family and whatever the fuck all the little monster guys around them were so fucking weird that it was very engaging.
Yeah, and we're leaning heavily on Sherry Moon and Bill Moseley on in this. I mean, and Karen Black. I mean, we're just leaning so hard on them and they fucking deliver.
So what would you got funniest part of the movie? Just curious, since you brought up funny moments.
Funniest part? I mean, I just love that bow tie.
I'm in the same vein of conversations. I think when he was talking to the cops, they came to show him the picture of the missing girl, and he kept snorting in the middle of the conversation. That was hilarious. He would be like, ha, 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 to the cop, and he had on that shirt.
Yes, the shirt. That's what I was going to say. Just like the shirt alone.
Captain Spaulding has some fucking amazing lines in his delivery. I mean, he's by far the funniest character, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those were the funniest parts for me too. So, I guess we can agree that his character was the comic relief.
That tiny hat he's wearing.
Well, the other thing that I would say is kind of amusing is when Tiny lets her go and he's just sitting there eating that cereal and it's just all coming down his face. When Otis looks in and like glares at him, he just shrugs.
It's completely indifferent.
I like waves by to her too, because she kept saying, "I'm gonna go home now.
Yep,
I'm gonna eat now." He's bye. I mean, like that was pretty hilarious too. Yeah. I mean, you wonder if he just knows she's not going anywhere. Like try as you may, or if he really doesn't give a shit if she gets away.
Yeah, probably a combo of both, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem like he's had the best life. I would not have believed that fire story, though. I'd have been like, I'm sorry, but fire doesn't do that. So some other shit going on. And it's not surprising that it could be incestuous shit going on because of that disgusting intro by Hugo. Remember, he did the intro for Baby's, like, circus song, and it was all about fucking your mother. Just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have been like, you guys, let's get out of here. I mean, gross.
Yeah, she thinks she gets away.
Yeah. I think that I remember watching a few more of his movies. It seems like that's kind of how he likes to end a movie, is like, oh, fake you out, think that there is going to be like some kind of escape, but there really isn't. And it works here, but like I think that as soon as you see who's picking her up, you don't expect anything else.
Right. It's got real Voorhees vibes from the first film too. Just the way he pops out of the water.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Just popping right out of the back seat. Yeah.
I would be kind of disappointed if she actually got away though, because I like the vibe of this movie and a lot of other Rob Zombie movies that's violence for the sake of violence. I mean, madness and chaos for the sake of it, hilarity for the sake of hilarity. I mean, it's never, oh, because you wronged me in a past situation or we're haunted by a ghost or anything. It's really all just for the sake of violence and chaos and camp. And get away from that. There's no reasoning behind it. She keeps asking, why are you doing this? And they just like laugh in her face, It's
not even a sociopath. They're just all psychopaths because they care about their family.
Yeah, absolutely. For the sake of it. So yeah, nobody gets away from that.
Yeah.
You're to it like Dr. Spaulding, or you die.
I love in his later films, like when Zombie starts to bring in like Richard Brake and shit. Richard Brake just brings a fucking stoicism to a role. Like he played the chemist in Mandy. He was also in
Mhm.
Barbarian. He plays the guy who like kidnaps that girl and stuff. Getting Richard Brake to work is fucking a good idea in my book.
Yeah. That is who he would pop up in movies and we just called him Deathhead because that was his character in 31. But yeah, he is very in on this aesthetic that Rob Zombie's doing here.
It's priceless. It's perfect.
Yeah. So we're at the point in the podcast where we should probably give our chuds. I'll go last.
I'll go first. I will give this, I think this is a fair score. 3.5 ack-ack-ack-ack-ack-acks.
Fair.
I gotta give it 3. You know, I'm on board from beginning to end, which is a big feat in camp for me. So I liked it. It was solid. There was a ton to look at. You know, I'm not gonna sit down and analyze the plot. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Hour
with you.
29. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you guys. I think I maybe liked it a little less, but I can definitely give it a 3. I think that just the aesthetic alone and the way that they decided to tell the story artistically was interesting enough that I can forgive the rest of it. It is a little edgelordy though.
But the music, if you notice in the background, was very lyrical. You know, there were a lot of lyrics that were going along with the scene. I liked that, you know, a little rah, fuck you in the back. It was cool.
Yeah.
Solid 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah. All right, guys. So you can find this podcast on the internet at ghostinthemagazine.site. You can find us on Twitter at GITM Podcast. You can find me at Nocturnical.
You can find me at Hedda_Mel.
I think I got one on there still, but I just don't check it. So you can't find me. Thanks for listening, you beautiful people.
Okay, bye.